Welcome to this video, how to use the Appraiser's Eye report, estimate home values in the Prescott area quickly and easily using our exclusive market statistics report. In this video and this report is brought to you by the Prescott Pickle Lady, Diane Bro of Realty One Group Mountain Desert. As you can probably tell, I am not the Pickle Lady. My name is Randall Bro. That's me in the bottom right hand corner, looking as handsome as Photoshop can make me. All right, let's get on with it. The way that people generally do appraisals and estimate home values is with a formula. And I'm very happy to say that this is not the formula. Actually, coming up with home values is a lot simpler than most people make it out to be. And this is the simple formula that most appraisers and realtors and people who estimate home values generally use. And it has three components. There's the home value, which is what you want to come up with. And we get that by taking the square footage of the home and multiplying that by some price per square foot. Now, the easy part is the square footage. The square footage is the size of the home, which can be directly measured. You can get your tape measure out and actually measure the home, but for the most part, you can get an estimate of the square footage of the home either from MLS or the county. The harder part is the price per square. Now, if you're looking at historic homes, you know what the home sold for, and you know how big the home is, and with division, you can come up with a price per square. So that's pretty easy. But when you're trying to estimate a home that hasn't sold yet, well, your price per square is something you kind of have to guesstimate. And we do that using benchmarks. Benchmarks of homes nearby that sold, and we call these benchmarks comps or comparables. Now, one of I underlined nearby here so I wouldn't forget to tell you, it's very important when you pick your benchmarks or pick your comps that you pick homes that are very close to the home you're trying to estimate. Anything that's far away is really kind of not relevant. So in the Appraiser's Eye report, we break everything down to the subdivision. And in fact, for Prescott Lakes, which is the area's largest subdivision, we actually break that subdivision down into smaller neighborhoods so that you can get a really close look at comps that are very close to your home. Hopefully you'll find the subdivision you're looking for in our report. If not, let us know. We'd be glad to add whatever subdivision you want. If you don't live in a subdivision, we can still help you. I won't go into that here, but just reach out to us and we'll take care of you. Okay, so let's say you got your benchmarks, you got your comps. Generally, you need to adjust the price per square of your comps, and there are any number of adjustment factors, and here are the usual suspects. So the first is size. Now, obviously, the size is the square footage, and we're going to use the square footage multiplied by price per square to get the home value. But one thing you should know is the larger a home is, the less per square foot it usually goes for. And that has to do with the value of the land, maybe some other factors. But for the most part, we know that the bigger homes get, the less per square footage you tend to get for those homes. Age is important. If a home is newer, it usually trades at a higher price per square. The number of stories is important. Single-story homes generally go for a higher price per square foot than multiple-story homes. Acreage is important. If a home has more land, it usually has a higher price per square foot. Particularly in Prescott, the Prescott area, views are important. So if your home has a really magnificent view, it should trade at a higher rate. If your home doesn't have a view and you're comparing that to homes that do, well, then you need to adjust it down. Your finishes is important, whether you have high-grade finishes, countertops, fireplaces, stonework, that kind of thing. That can adjust the value of a home. And market conditions themselves. When the market is tight and sellers are doing well, the price per square goes up. Just part of the business. And there are a whole bunch of other stuff, but this usually covers the gamut. These are the big factors that most appraisers will be looking at. In terms of actually showing you how this works, I think the easiest way to do that is just do a case study. So I grabbed an actual house. This house is on the market at this time. It's in Forest Trails. It has 2,034 square feet. It was built in 1993. It's a one-story house, has almost half an acre. Panoramic views. Views are very nice. Inside, the finishes are what I would describe as builder grade plus. Not the best, but not the worst. Kind of on average for that area. It is currently a seller's market. So other things being equal, we get a little bit more for our money. The list price is $450,000. So if you take the 450 and you divide that by 2,034 square feet, that comes to $221 per square foot. Well, is that high? Is that low? Well, for that, you need comparables. And to get the comparables, you go to the Appraiser I report. So I pulled out the section for Forest Trails. Now, in the actual report, I tell you what the address is of each one of these and when it was sold, for just to kind of keep this sort of anonymous. And also because I don't have that much space on my chart, I sort of cut that off. So here are the comparables we have for Forest Trails, and these are for the last 6 months. Very sort of monkey-brained here. We know that the price per square foot for this home should probably be somewhere between the minimum price per square foot for our comps and the maximum. Minimum, if you do the arithmetic, that comes to $317,000. If you do the arithmetic on the 297, that comes to over $600,000. So obviously we need to narrow this down quite a bit for this to be a useful estimate. And we do that by kind of going through the factors and comparing them to the comparables that we have. Another number that's really big is the median. So these two numbers are kind of in the middle. So if we did 190 per square, that comes to 386,000. 197 comes to 401. So if you split the difference, you get like 394. 394 would probably be what you got if like you went to Zillow, one of those automated things. Basically, that's what they do. They grab all the comps and they usually just kind of work off the median here. But we're going to get a little more precise than that by looking through the factors that we have. And the first one I want to look at is the age. So our home was built in 1993. As you can see, most of the homes here are sort of comparable. We have at least one or two that are a bit older than that. But significantly, the newest homes, significantly newest homes, are right at the top of this chart. So since ours is sort of 1993 and these are significantly newer, I'm going to take these comps and say, you know what, we were not really going to use those because those homes are a lot newer than ours. So that kind of bumps up our maximum here down to the 226, which is about 460. So now we're running, if we do the minimum here, that's 317, and the 226, we're down to 460. So we've narrowed the gap quite a bit by doing that. And I think that's appropriate. All right, next up, we're going to look at the square footage. So I said before that the bigger the home, the lower the price per square. You can see the cheaper homes here in this schedule. Oh, and by the way, this is sorted by the lowest price per square to the highest price per square to make it easy to kind of analyze this. So you could see that the cheaper homes, cheaper price per square foot anyway, these are a lot bigger than the about 2,000 square feet that we're dealing with here. And these are a bit smaller. So we're kind of working our way down. One of the other things too to keep in mind is this particular comp only has 1/10 of an acre of land. Now that might be a data entry error on the part of the listing agent. In fact, that's probably exactly what that is. But we're going to pretend that that number is real. In reality, you might want to drive out there and just make sure that is a postage stamp size lot like it's described here. But we're going to pretend that it is just for the sake of illustration. All right, so I'm moving the range in between this 197 and the 211 and somewhere between the 226 and the 214. I'm thinking we're going to do better than this house that's almost twice the size almost twice the size of the house we're looking at. We'll do better than this 197. This home is significantly smaller. It does have a really tiny lot. We might do as well as that, maybe not quite as good. So I'm thinking on the bottom end of our range is going to be somewhere between the 211 and the 197. And on the higher end, these homes are smaller. This one's a lot smaller, about the same size acreage, about the same year. So given that it's, these are smaller, I'm going to put the top end of our range somewhere between these two. So we'll call that 205, somewhere between 205 and 220. Now, where in the range we're going to trade, again, you kind of have to sort of evaluate things. Against us is the fact that our house is bigger than these. For us is that we have a beautiful panoramic view, and we have one comp here that doesn't have a view at all. And these two houses have views, but they're not as good as ours. So that might argue kind of near the top of the range here, but our square footage kind of puts us down in the middle, down near the bottom. So we might come in somewhere in the middle. Just kind of wrapping things up here, I'm going to call our low end 205. I'm going to call our high end 220. And sort of most likely or middle is somewhere around 215. If you do the arithmetic, 417 to 447. And the middle would be about 437. Our actual list price for this home is $450,000, which is $221, as I mentioned before. So I think it's pretty safe to say that this house is priced a bit high, at least on the higher end of the range that we've seen because of the comps. Now, it's a seller's market, so maybe the market's moving in that direction. This house hasn't been sold yet. Somebody may come in and negotiate it down a bit, and they might just pay it, and suddenly we have a comp at 221. That is how the market works. I will say, though, that this house has been on the market for 3 months, and if you go back here and look at how long the houses were on the market before they moved, we have a couple of outliers here that were about 6 months, but most of these are moving within 1 or 2 months. This one has been on the market for 3 months, and it has yet to sell. In part, that might be because of the price. In part, it might be due to some other factors that we don't see in the numbers. But there you go. There's our case study out in Forest Trails. So I hope this demonstration was helpful for you in using the Appraiser's Eye report. I hope you'll agree that the Appraiser's Eye report is a very useful tool. I hope you also saw that this is as much art as it is science, so don't let anybody tell you differently. It always takes a bit of interpretation and subjective opinion in coming up with these figures. But the good news is you don't have to be a slave to other people's value estimates anymore. You can form your own opinion looking at the comps that we've given you, and that will help you negotiate a better deal for you as you are looking at different properties. If you run into trouble, you have questions, or you want us to jump in and do an estimate for you, we would be glad to do that for you. Just reach out to us for help anytime. Again, we are the Pickle Lady Brigade. My wife is the Prescott Pickle Lady. This is her alternative persona. And you can always find us at PrescottPickleLady.com. Thanks, and I hope you found this entertaining and helpful.